Welcome, Dr. Amit Sood. I had the pleasure of being introduced to you through a protocol I'm experiencing, and I think there are words that seem to be connected to what you do, besides doing stress management, resilience, innovator, physician, scientist. You've also been interviewed covering topics like why are we so lonely, 9 essential skills that make you resilient, and battling burnout. So I hope that gives everybody sort of the scope of what you do. But we are going to learn about the depth of what you do, which totally blew my mind. And it was one of the best experiences I've had in a very long time. So it's such a pleasure to introduce you to my audience. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for your very kind words. I wish my 2 teenagers were listening to them. So they'll take me a little more seriously because they call me loser and butler. So, yeah, well, there is a lot of in medicine and otherwise looking at life, there is a lot of suffering on the planet. And it is not that the suffering is all because of nature's unpredictability. A lot of this suffering is self-created by humans for ourselves and for each other. Our connection with the self is often broken. And when the connection with the self is broken, then connection with others and what is our purpose also gets broken. And through my work and research, I realized that a lot of it, actually most of it, is not an individual's fault. It is our human disposition. So all I'd like to do is to help people become aware of the challenges that their brain faces in the modern world.
Yeah, well, I think the more we talk, the more everyone will understand the tools that you really make accessible, that are brilliant and exciting and innovative, because I believe the kind of concept of what you do is ancient in practice, but the way you interpret it is incredibly innovative. And I think if we could talk a little bit about the type of, you're a physician and a scientist and a researcher, and you're constantly doing and exploring. So tell us a little bit just about your work and what you do, so we get a little background before we go off into the hinterlands and conversation.
Yeah, so I'm foremost a husband to my lovely wife Richa, and dad to 2 princesses, both teenagers, and dad to my dog Simba. So that's my foremost sort of identity. And as a physician, I trained as an internist. I served as a primary care doctor and took care of tens of thousands of patients and walked with them on their journey. And along the way, I realized that there is an untreated or unaddressed part of humans, which is our mind. And that needs more innovation, how we help ourselves and how we help people with their mind. So that's what I started researching, and that's what I've been on a journey for the last 20 years to understand the mind, understand the human condition, through a variety of disciplines. I of course, study neuroscience and psychology and evolutionary biology and behavioral economics and marketing. A little bit of fashion comes there, but not a whole lot. But it does come there, and conventional medical research. So after I understood the human condition, and I met with a lot of contemplatives of our times and read a lot of what people have written over the last few thousand years, sort of I developed a theme in my head, and that theme led to developing a few ideas of how to overcome the current challenges that we are facing. And those skills I started first implementing in my life, in my family and friends and colleagues. And when they worked, we started testing them in clinical trials at Mayo Clinic. And I'm very fortunate that Mayo was open to implement these ideas amongst patients. So we've done now over 36 clinical trials. And eventually, as they say, if you do not keep milk in a glass, it spills, it is of no purpose. So we kept it all in a scaffold called resilience and created Resilient Option as a program, and started offering it to patients and colleagues and others in the community. And when people liked it, approached, actually most of it was word of mouth. We connected with a lot of different corporate and law firms and nonprofits and military, and so we actually help about 100 different organizations implement some of these ideas that I continue to research and refine. 20 years ago, when I started on this journey, I was very clumsy, and it was like, the cell phone design 20 years ago. And we have listened to people and refined the ideas and hopefully have a smartphone. Actually, the program is called SMART Program, Stress Management and Resilience Training Program, as we have researched. So that's what I do. I help people get more mileage from their brain, if there is one line that summarizes it all.
I think there's sort of a phrase now that's used for the kind of thing you do, and sometimes um, some of the things I do, and it's sort of life hacks, how to hack something with a new technique or a new approach. So for me, I recommend to women, especially when things, either relationships go bad or you find out that the person you love is cheating on you, and you need to kind of take control of who you are and where you're going to go with that. I say, buy an outfit that is completely what you thought only certain people could wear because you weren't of that level, or change your hair, or if you wear makeup, don't wear makeup. If you wear too much makeup, wear less makeup, but change your identity, become the superwoman, put on that superwoman outfit and re-identify who you want to be. And so that's a fashion hack. So in your, and I don't mean to diminish the importance of what you do to fashion, but in your work, what's the first hack, respectfully, that you think seems to work the best for the most amount of people that you, in your discovery of this?
Thank you for such a lucid question. And my response will be self-validation. You may have noticed through your life's journey that, including you, that the good people are very good at feeling bad about themselves. So if you have felt bad about yourself in the last few weeks, it's a proof that you are a good person. So we let people who do not believe in us, impact our self-worth. We let people we should not let people who shouldn't be in the story of our life write the title of our story. So when you validate yourself in that, you recognize that a lot of these challenges are not your mistake. They are part of a human condition. They are, people, I first of all, if people are upset with me or reject me, I don't call them upset or rejecting me. I just say they've gotten allergic to me. And so, so, so you could be allergic to peanuts. That doesn't make peanuts bad.
Right.
We're just allergic to each other, so we avoid
Right.
each other. So do not take it on yourself. Have self-compassion, which leads to self-acceptance and self-forgiveness. So having that healthy relationship with yourself. Oftentimes, when I ask people, and I might trap you in this question, Norma, if I may ask you, who is your best friend? What would you say? Your first best friend?
Marty, for sure.
Marty. And that is absolutely right. Marty is your second best friend. Your first best
Ah,
friend is
me,
me.
me.
Exactly. Exactly. So I sometimes have people take out their phone, go to the photos, camera, swap it, turn it. That's the person who is smiling at you.
Right.
So, so befriending yourself, believing in yourself, which is how you validate
Yeah.
yourself. I think that is the first step. I would say that just believe in those who believe in you. Uh, I think we've spent a lot of time believing in those who do not believe in us. I'm done with that. I love negative feedback. I use it to improve, but I haven't given now anybody on the planet the power to reduce my self-worth. Uh, I just have not.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean I disrespect people or I'm being not being humble, but all it means is I've started believing in the love that is flowing towards me, and I believe in that more than I believe in the quarters from where no light is coming.
Yeah, it's so brilliant because the rarity is actually the generosity of people who show you love. It's hard to find that in our culture today because so much is expressed through social media, which hides behind a veil where people can behave inappropriately. They don't have to be accountable. They don't have to have any feelings about it except some expression of anger from something that might have happened a very long time ago. And I think your advice of going towards the energy of love is great, but how do you handle the negative energy? You say you reject it and don't allow it in, but what are some of the techniques you use to do that, whether it's through social media or in relationships at work or friendships, when things when you start to get allergic to somebody, how do you deal with that? Like when do you know to start dealing with it? You might have had a okay relationship and all of a sudden things happen. What's your advice?
Yeah, I think it's very important to know what not to accept, because we just feel like, oh, they will change, they will get better. So if someone says or does to me something twice that I would never do to them, that's my threshold. And I give people benefit of doubt once. I mean, unless it's really the first time it's egregious, they broke my jawbone with a punch or
Right,
something.
it.
That's
That
not,
one.
but if they do it twice, because the world has 8 billion people. If a few people have decided to show they're allergic to you, it's not a big deal. We shouldn't let them occupy disproportionate real estate in our brain. So that's my sort of threshold, and I really connect with people not based on their success or fame. It is based on their values. And I must say that talking to you in a few minutes, I knew that you are a person of deep values, having come from a very modest background to supporting and enhancing self-worth of millions of individuals, and going strong, and like you, I never plan to retire. So I think so that is my threshold, first of all. Now, if I do have someone who is allergic to me, the first thing I try to remember is, will it matter in 5 years? Someone who has expressed, someone cut across my car on the road, or was tailgating me, or use some, expletive, which I actually enjoy when I hear those. I was in the cities a few years ago, and as I was crossing, someone send those kind words towards me, and I really laughed because I hadn't heard those in a while. So will it matter in 5 years? If it won't matter in 5 years, it's not a good use of my time today. So that's the first thing I think about. The second thing I think about is uh, this line, which has helped me a lot, which is, an expression other than love is a call for help. So if someone is upset, and this happens a lot in medicine these days, if a patient is upset in front of me, I can say they are upset personally, or I can say they are actually hurting. And maybe they were not hugged enough as a child. Maybe they do not trust. Maybe they have a sick child. Maybe they have financial issue. Maybe they're constipated. I don't know. There is I personally feel a very good well-being intervention is to increase the amount of soluble fiber in the community. Our meetings will go much better. So, so assuming positive intent, knowing that an expression other than love is a call for help, so you do not personalize it. And then the third thing, I have trillions of role models on the planet, and that is all the trees. When you keep a tree, if you block sunlight from one side, the tree will bend towards the light. The tree always bends towards the light. But we, if someone does not like us, we just bend towards the darkness. Why is this person not liking me? Instead of thinking about 9 other people who love us. So I sort of draw inspiration from the trees as I take a stroll in the evening, and I say, I've got to be like these sages that I see around me.
Yeah. I think I'm sure everybody is very engrossed in what you're saying now, because with the tension and stress that we have in the world, everybody is a bit hyper and a bit more anxious, and we are all more sensitive, and obviously all needing love more. And what are what can we do when we feel that somebody that we feel good about and have had good relationships with, whether it's at work or friends or whatever, even our mates, when we see something is happening and that relationship is important, it's a relationship we want to see in 5 years, or we like that friendship. We're at work and we spend lots of times in our work family. What's the approach? Is bringing up the fact that there's an issue provocative and maybe stimulates a negative response? Or what would you recommend for wanting to make things right with people we care about, but things aren't comfortable? What suggestion do you have?
Great question. And I have had that challenge many, many times. So The first thing that I like to do is to decrease my what I call ER mismatch, which is expectation reality mismatch. So if a person has, if a volcano has a lot of lava inside their chest, they are going to spew lava. So if somebody is upset, they are hurting. So that's the reality, and that's where it is coming from. So it's best not to personalize it. And it's also best not to say this is going to be forever. Like, we had Pearl Harbor, and we had, the atom bombs, and now Japan and US are close trade partners.
Yeah.
So things evolve. So having that hope alive that this is just a transient, situation, it will get better. I think that is extremely important. So that is the first part. The second part, when you are asking about should we bring it up? I think if you tell people you've been curt off late, what are they going to say? No, I've been fine. So I think the best thing, what I would like to do is to say that, I think there's something I'm doing which is putting negative energy, or something I did which you may not have liked. So talk about and I really, really care about our relationship. I want to be around together as long as I'm on planet Earth and beyond with you. So what can I do better? And so don't put people in a corner.
Yeah.
So keep them take this about you. Now, the other part, what I found very helpful is if you are struggling with somebody, praise them to a third person. I believe that that energy will eventually reach them. So, for example, Norma, if I am not responding to your emails and texts, and so if you feel upset about me, and I praise you to Marty, and Marty tells, Amit was really praising you, you'll say, actually, he's not that bad a person, because because this is relationship 101. Most
Yeah.
important line I will ever say: I don't like you for who you are. I like you for how I feel about myself in your presence. So help people feel
Great. That's great.
worthy in your presence.
Yeah.
So that's the next part of it, removing that expectation reality mismatch, approaching it with an I sort of statement, helping them get positive energy about your connection with them from other quarters. And finally, and this is also part of changing the threshold. So I have a particular relationship where I was really struggling. I was feeling judged about every little thing. And so then, and I didn't like it because I had to spend time with this person, and this is one of those relationships I can't walk out of. So I said, okay, let me do a thought experiment. I've got severe pain in my belly, and this gentleman is at home with me. What will he want? Will he want me to be more in pain? Or would he want me to be pain-free? And the answer I got was he will want me to be pain-free. What we disagree on are small things.
Yeah.
And I said, that's it. That's all what I need. I know at core this person loves me. It is not manifesting in the form of expressions of love because of their predispositions, and I'm just going to lower my expectations. Sometimes you have to say this is an 80-year-old in a 50-year-old body, and you have to optimize your expectations from people. So that's what I do. And I can tell you that in my entire family and friends, I can't think of anybody who I cannot, pick up the phone and call and have a good conversation.
Yeah.
And it's not that we have not had, adverse situations in the past. I'll say one last thing. I had an argument at work many years ago, and we kept the phone, and I said, this didn't go well. Now, this could sort of seed a difficult relationship with this person. I called them in like 20 seconds, and I said, hey, we had this disagreement, but that doesn't mean we will stop liking each other. or we're going to, say hello, or you will bless my sneeze. You will not stop blessing my sneeze. And he said, yes, it's just logistical issue. So the point is, when you have an argument or difference, patch it as soon as
Yeah.
possible if you can.
You know, the I recommendation, I learned that myself practically, especially in my business, because um, one of the most important jobs I have is to be a good communicator. If I want to be sure that we're all following the same goal, we're all in this together, not only as a work family, but also to reach these expectations we have together. And I realized that I I wasn't getting the results of having everybody come on the path. And I thought, what is going on? What is with that person? Why isn't that person? And I thought, well, it's got to be me because it's my job to make sure everybody's doing it. So I decided to say, I realized I'm having a problem communicating and I want to find another way to communicate with you. And I hope I'm doing it right. And I want to try again and let me explain it to you in a different way um, and see if it makes sense. And it changed so much because it really, sometimes you just automatically think, well, I said that, you should know. But then taking the responsibility as well for things not being exactly the way you think they should be with another person is really important. And I realized when you have a company, everybody is there to do something together. And if it's not happening and I'm the lead, who am I gonna who hello, who am I gonna blame? I'm looking, it's me. I have to so I use I a lot in that way, and it really is such a great lesson, and I'm just expressing that I use it and I see good results because that's such a great word of advice. One of the things that when we talk about these relationships, we have in through my career, I've had so many women in my companies. It's a fashion company. The nature of it is conducive to lots of women. And there's the desire, and this is decades and decades of generations and generations of young women believing that by the time they're 30, they have to have found their soulmate and that they're going to get married and that they're going to have kids and that they're doing everything on a schedule that life has predicted. And maybe there's pressure from their parents, maybe not. But the anxiety as they get towards 30 builds and builds and builds. And sometimes in the desire to meet this expectation, they pick mates or possible mates who don't deserve them. Literally, they don't deserve that person, and they make these choices. And I think women, especially, have this proclivity to pick mates that are not worthy of them. And how do you like how do I tell them that like he doesn't deserve you, and like that's not enough. Obviously I'm a designer, I'm not a therapist, but what's your take on that, because we need some real advice in this area.
So it is. So the question is, if someone is in a relationship that is not satisfying or healthy or appropriate, what should they do? What can they do?
Yeah, so
I,
it's yeah.
So yeah, so we see that fairly frequently actually, and the first question, which is a fork in the road, I ask them, do you see yourself as an 85-year-old sitting on a bench by the ocean, holding this person's hand and, traveling to the light with this person? If the answer is yes, then we walk towards healing. And I'll tell you something, Norma, that Marty is most likely not going to load the dishwasher exactly as you like. And that's just the way life is. So please do not get upset about how they load the dishwasher or how they throw socks on the floor or things that time can destroy. Focus on the values that time cannot destroy.
Right.
Do they care about you? Do they love you? Do they have high integrity? Do they have compassion? Are they grateful? Do they appreciate the little things and express their love? So if they see themselves together, then you walk towards healing. If they do not see themselves together, and then there is two situations: either they have somebody or they do not have somebody right now. And then depending on that situation, I was actually recently talking to somebody who was exactly in this situation, and they had somebody. And basically, the idea is saying, you always say yes in life, I believe, but sometimes that yes is no because you're saying yes to yourself. And so you're saying yes to somebody, and that somebody is you at times. And one thing is, a large body of research shows that if you're dragging in a relationship, it's going to inflame your body and their body too, and predispose you to heart disease and stroke and cancer and even early mortality. So you're not doing service to either of the two. Now, the thing is, if you have to separate, you do with great respect, grace, maintain friendship. If you have children with this person, then there is that bond that will continue. So, but you sort of, you make that decision. If you have somebody now, if you already have somebody and you want to break, then you're not being fair to that person who is waiting for you. So having that complex thinking, in your head, and certainly taking somebody's help through this decision process, because sometimes you may not be able to see things as clearly given the biases we all carry. So I think, but no matter what, preserve your compassion for the person who is not being nice to you. Because if you get angry at them, in that you get that rage at them, you're giving them the power to increase your risk of heart attack, stroke, and dementia. And do you want to give that power to anybody on the planet? You do not. So in many situations, when people are separating, I actually advise, and I've seen both the partners actually separately, I've invited them to preserve their compassion. Because you can say no, you can separate, you can even sue the other person, yet remain compassionate towards them. Because when you are compassionate towards them, you are being compassionate to yourself. In fact, I share with trial attorneys to be compassionate towards the opposite team, because when you're compassionate, your emotions are in your control. Mm-hmm. And so then you can make a more effective argument.
That was really good advice. I'm going to go back a little bit because so there's, I believe that not just women, I think many people pick partners because they don't want to be lonely, or they, for a lot of reasons, and they know that they're taking second place, or it's not quite the level, but they pick people. And one of the things that I want to tell you about is there's a movie called Bridesmaids. I am positive you did not see it. In fact, I'm sure you did not see it. It's a movie that a lot of girls have seen, And it's a fantastic movie because it really has a lot of depth. It's a comedy, it's sort of a lighthearted, but in it there's deep stories. And one of them is this scene, and John Hamm, who at the time was extremely handsome and very charming, was just bedding as many women as he could and not really being very respectful, actually disrespectful and charming at the same time. And there was this girl who was crazy about him, and she knew that he was using her, but she decided in her mind that sooner or later he would, every time he came to have sex with her, sooner or later she would win him over and he would fall in love with her. And so I remember at the time I had a campaign about the objectification of women, and for women to sort of realize that we objectify ourselves more than other people do. And I would bring up in all of these meetings this scene in the movie, and I would say, has this ever happened with you? And because when I saw the movie, I said, oh my God, I think I've done that myself. And every woman of all ages, including an 82-year-old woman that was part of a talk we did, everyone, every single one said they allowed someone to objectify them for the idea that they would sooner or later win them over, and they were just being taken advantage of. And so that kind of relationship that obviously has so much to do with self, why is that so pervasive? I mean, every woman, and this is thousands and thousands of women that I ask that same question. And it happens and it keeps happening. So, and I'm sure it's not just women, by the way. I think that it goes both ways, but I think women tend to be a little bit more anxious about this sense of urgency to kind of win over the guy that they're going to spend the rest of their lives with. But why does that happen?
So there is a number of reasons, and yes, it is common. And one is a sense of insecurity. The other is, so we have this area in the brain called the reward network. Reward network is the pleasure area of the brain. So you see a good friend, your reward network lights up. That's the final common pathway. Now, when you see somebody and like somebody, their presence, their thought, their words activate your reward network. And over a period of time, the reward network activation becomes so strong that the thought of that person not being in your life, it is extremely painful, and it feels like cocaine withdrawal. Actually, in MRI studies, brain of cocaine withdrawal and brain of broken relationships, they'll both look exactly the same.
Oh my God. That's a good one. That's
Yeah.
a good one. Whoa.
So they develop a little bit of an addiction, and people leverage that. And so your identity completely becomes invested in being liked by this person. So even though rationality tells you otherwise, that people do not change, their brain's biology is not going to get transformed overnight unless something really amazing happens to them, but you still keep hoping, because very much like someone who is craving a substance, you crave the presence of that person, and those people are also obliging, they leverage that, subconsciously or consciously. So people fall into that trap because of the biology of their brain. And by the time they wake up, sometimes it's a little bit late. Now, I think there's an old saying which is very relevant now. God gave me patience, but please hurry up. You know,
Right.
I have found one thing that I really uh, use to develop relationships, and that is values. Uh, we all go, we all care about looks and success and all those things, but the most important thing that you can use to connect with people is aligned values. If the values are not aligned, it's not going to work out eventually. Because if they are flamboyant and they want to spread their genes to 20 different people while you want to be focusing on just one home and all, it is less likely it's going to work out. Eventually that disposition will take over. And one of the reasons that is because I've been married 31 years now to my lovely wife. And I realized that after 10, 12 years of being together, partners become borderline boring. And there's this whole hormonal science around love, that it starts with sex hormones, then it moves to dopamine, which is craving each other. And that dopamine has to move to oxytocin, which is bonding, which is nurturing, which is compassion, which is raising babies together. So unless that dopamine gets converted to oxytocin, that nurturing relationship will not happen. It will break because novelty fades after some time. So if somebody is pure dopamine driven while you are seeking oxytocin, uh, you start with dopamine and then you very quickly move to oxytocin. And oxytocin is literally the hormone of bonding, and we need much more of oxytocin in our society.
Yeah, I think values are really, really going to that. And uh, our childhood, our experiences are so embedded in who we are that if we don't recognize that as a part of how we believe and how we behave, and not all of it is perfect, clearly. There's a lot of childhood experiences that help us grow, but even through that, picking the right people. One question that I think people think a lot about too is, like you said, so now you are with someone and it's not a happy situation, and you don't want to be arguing and angry all the time, and a lot of people just sort of hang in and stay and just don't want to rock the boat and let the status quo. And in my marriage, I got married at 19, which was way too young. But as the years went by and we grew very much apart, we were still in business together. And before I knew it, he was dating our sales girls and being just outrageously disrespectful. But I loved my work and I loved designing, and I just hung in. And then I realized that I didn't know how to get out of it, because I only had $98 in the bank, and that was part of the way for him to keep me. And I just was so stuck. And of course, some women could tell you they have children and it's hard to get out. And so my situation was not as dramatic as having children, but I didn't know how I would leave what I loved, but was also giving me incredible pain and humiliation. And it wasn't until the sales girl that he was dating that I was firing and he was rehiring and he was buying watches and all kinds of things for, came to me and said, I am going to be designing now, and I would like you to make the following pieces. And that was it. So I just picked up my things and I walked out. But I think it takes this dramatic event when you're in that, I can't get out, I'm stuck, I can't get out, I'm stuck. These dramatic events, I thank this girl over and over and over, as painful as it was to look at her telling me this. If she didn't do that, what would have happened? Would I have stayed because it was painful, but I was still getting joy out of what I was doing? I would not have been anywhere near where I am now had I not had that horrific experience. So she, to me, really, really did me one of the biggest favors for my career ever. So how does that, the situation where you're stuck in a relationship, you're held in it and you want to get out, but it takes something so dramatic to force you out? Or how do you do it without something so dramatic?
Yeah, she was the final factor. There is oftentimes in life, there is a final factor. She was not the only factor. There was a buildup, and then there was this final factor that broke the camel's back. Now, I think, and that's where a bit of loneliness comes. Because if you have only one egg in your basket, if you have nurtured one relationship and this person is the only person who you can look up to for support, then you certainly, I mean, it's a not flip of a coin, but still it's quite risky. And particularly if you're not financially independent and do not have your job. So I actually personally feel, having two daughters, I think it's very important for women and everybody to be financially independent. So that should not be part of negotiation. When you were challenged, that was many, many decades ago, but it shouldn't happen in 2023. The second part is social independence. So having a network of friends and loved ones and colleagues who support you and who you connect with. So investing in that kind of social connection, that is very important. To have that tribe, that is almost your mirror, because you can talk to them, you can learn from them, you can recognize that you're being mistreated early enough, because many times we just feel like, oh, this is okay, oh, this is fine, oh, this will get better. So having that financial independence, occupational independence, social independence, having a strong sense of self-respect and grace. I think nobody should be allowed to take advantage of us, men or women. There is. I'm actually talking to and supporting a friend who is going through a very difficult situation where her husband is a very influential gentleman and influential person. I should have said gentleman because he's not as gentle. And then she feels guilty because she's so I think the idea that really resonates with her, and she feels like, oh, maybe I should have lingered, even though he has philandered and continues to do so. I said, tell me this, will you respect yourself when you are again 85-year-old and look at your 50-year-old self and say, I let this happen to me? Will you feel it a matter of pride that you still slept in the same bed? And she said, absolutely not. I'm a competent, financially successful person who is very, very well respected in what she does. I'm a specialist in this. How can I let that happen to me? And what would your daughter think? And what would your son think? Because you're being a role model. I mean, she has had weak moments, and then we talk about that. Actually, she's being a role model for her children and other extended family. So having that sense of self-respect is also very important. And I think, there's two lives we live, Norma. We live a superficial life, which is the material world, which is our successes, our relationships. And we have a deeper journey, which is our, I feel, spiritual journey, where who are we becoming as a person? And if you succeed superficially and fail at the deeper level, you have failed. And if you succeed at the deeper level, even if at the superficial level you're not that successful, you have succeeded. So I think developing into a person who you respect, who you admire, who could be your role model, I think that is true success. And that's what we should strive for. Now, if the world agrees with that, if the world supports your spiritual journey, I'll stay with that world. If the world does not support my spiritual journey, does not allow self-respect and self-worth, and is a role model of who I want to be, then I'm going to divorce that world and I'll find a different world. And even if I don't find a different world, that's it. That's okay. I'm complete in myself. Why do feeling complete in yourself is equally important. So that's what I feel: emotional independence, financial independence, social independence, spiritual direction, thinking about being a role model. I think those should be the drivers, and spending time with connecting with people whose values you admire.
The age group of 19 to 29, which was my experience. I was 19 and then left when I was 29. So that age, you can have a tribe and you can have friends, but it's a lot of inexperience in that tribe, right?
Yeah.
So where does somebody in that age group, because that age group is so overwhelmed and stressed, and right now more than ever, I think experiencing whether it's COVID interfering with discovery, self-discovery, relationship discovery, that 19 to 29, when they come into one of these experiences, their tribe is as inexperienced as they are. And if they don't have, or they're too embarrassed to communicate with their parents, or because they did something stupid to put them in that relationship, like sleep with John Hamm 20 times, knowing he's not gonna want you. Like,
Yeah.
who do they go to for advice? Like, what would you tell them if they felt like they were too embarrassed to tell their parents or an aunt or somebody like that? And their friends are no more knowledgeable than they are. What are some ideas you have for reaching out for advice?
Yeah, I think I know you said that they're not comfortable with their parents, but I feel as a parent, as a dad, that is my first responsibility. And both my daughters, they know that no matter what they have said or done, I'll always be on their side, wanting their good, and they can come and talk to me. I think the most gratifying words I've ever heard in my life so far, the two most gratifying words I have heard. One was from a patient when I was leaving a practice and coming to Mayo Clinic. She said, "Why are you leaving? I wanted to die by your side." So to
Ah,
me, that was, oh
oh
my
my
God.
God.
I remember her. I remember that moment. I'll never forget in my life. And the
That's
second words were by my then 18-year-old. She's 19 now. And she said, "Dad, you understand me." And
ah.
To me, that was a very deep expression. So I think the first and foremost is our close loved ones, and you probably have someone in your life who is wise, who you can trust. They could be your uncle, they could be your friend's mom or friend's dad. They could have been your previous teacher who really believed in you. They could be the priest. They could be your soccer coach. Someone who you know you can trust with values, and they can be a good person. And there are some 25-year-olds who are, mature like they are 50. So that's where you want to go. There is definitely the refuge of good books. There are many good books, and I will not be able to specifically refer to you right now which book, but there are several good books around emotional intelligence and how to develop self-worth. And then there are professional coaches. And these days, there's resilience coaches. People can turn to podcasts and other material like the one that you are creating. People with good intentions create. And then there are, of course, retreats. There are self-help community programs. But in general, I think people, first of all, shy away from, I think, taking professional help, and feel like it's a stigma. No, I think everybody should have somebody they can trust, who they can go to. Now, I had started by saying that good people are very good at feeling bad about themselves. And if you have felt bad about yourself, it's a proof that you are a good person, because bad people don't feel bad about themselves. So, and again, I've shared this with my two daughters, that one is 19, the other is 13, that things will get better. It breaks your heart every time you see a young one trying to hurt themselves, because our brain matures by age 25. Some people now think, some researchers, that it matures really by age 30.
Wow.
So if you're having a temper tantrum, if you're overreacting to something, it's expected. It is part of your brain's design. And I promise you things will get better. As each additional 6 months, from age 20 to 30, you get so much more mature and so much more mature. Because at that age, at age 19, 20, your reward network of the brain is super sensitive. Your negative emotions of the brain, area of the brain, amygdala, is super sensitive.
Yeah.
While the rational brain, it is still a work in progress. It is still under construction.
Yeah.
That's how. Don't blame yourself if you overreacted. Don't blame yourself if you made a stupid decision. It is just because the brain is a work in progress.
Yeah, it's a process for sure.
It's a process, yeah.
What about resilience training, and talk about that. So, and how that works. I think this is a really good time to talk about that.
Sure. So I'm quite dissatisfied with the current state of human brain, and I feel that our brain needs an upgrade, because it's almost like if you were walking around lifting 150 pounds all day long, there will be a lot of back clinics to help you. But humans are walking with 150 pounds of weight in their brain, cognitive and emotional load. So resilience training is helping, first of all, people become aware of the kind of load their brain is taking, it has to lift, and becoming aware of why the brain is not able to lift the load. It's partly because we are constantly mind wandering. If you have walked into a room with no idea why you came there, or if you cannot remember, your grocery list. And a lot of people these days feel like they have early age dementia. If you feel your memory is failing you, it's part of the brain's design. And then the negativity bias, we focus on the negative more than the positive. You're rising, you're laying on a petal of flowers, the one thorn that is sticking in the skin, that'll feel much more. And our brain also gets tired every 60 to 90 minutes if it is not getting uplifting emotions or motivation. So that awareness piece is important. The second piece that is important is attention. Your attention is where you focus. So it's almost like when you go to a restaurant, you've got 400 items on the menu, but your dinner is decided by what's on your table. That's what matters. That's what your attention does. It picks from all the menu items in the life to make what is reality, which is what is on your table. And now what humans do is we pick the most negative. It's almost like when you go to a restaurant, you will say, I want the yuckiest item here, something that I'm allergic to. Give me something that'll make me really sick. That's what I want to think about. That's what we do. So training attention helps you shift to what is most nurturing. So that's the second part. So awareness, attention, and third part is mindset. How do I reframe my thinking? Can I focus on what went right within what went wrong? Can I focus on an expression other than love is a call for help? Or can I focus on, I'm not going to let someone who shouldn't be in the story of my life write the title of my story? So shifting your mindset or attitude. So awareness, attention, attitude. So that is resilience training, which we have developed a program we offer. It's called Resilient Option, and certainly you can look for that if you wish. But and so we have done multiple clinical trials with that. What we try to do is offer a customized approach to people, combining science and stories and a little bit of humor, and translating that into practices, skills that people can implement in daily life. For example, the first person I think about when I wake up is my wife. She may be sleeping by my side, and I wake up sending her a silent gratitude. And that has completely changed how we meet in the morning. I try to meet at least one person every day as if I haven't seen them for a month, so that there's uplifting connection. Personally, I try to silently bless every person I'm meeting so that I'm not judging people. I'm actually uplifted by every meeting, every connection, and a number of such ideas that it's almost like the tea is very bitter, the tea of life. There is so much negativity in the world, but I don't want to throw this tea. I want to drink this tea. So what do? I put some honey in it, and that honey is that of principles, and it's resilience that helps you pour that honey into that bitter tea.
I would like to include in this after the podcast some information about the resilience opportunity that you talked about for people who might be interested. And I have one last question to ask, so if you can go about your incredible business. It's in our conversation. You gave me the best wedding gift I will ever have. And it was a gratitude. And in this podcast, we talked a lot about relationships, obviously, first with ourselves, and then relationships in different manifestations in our lives. Is there a gratitude or something that you would like to close this podcast with?
Absolutely. And with your permission, we can do that 2-minute gratitude meditation
I would love
together.
it. I would love
Yeah,
it.
if that's okay with you. And this is thinking about one person in your life who you really care about and bringing them in your thoughts And I know you'll think about Marty. I'll think about my wife, Richa. And for those who are listening, if you can think about or watching, think about one person who you really care about and bring them into this practice. So I invite you to close your eyes, assuming you are at someplace safe. So imagine you are waking up in the morning. Try to recall the color of the floor where you woke up. And start a practice of deep, slow, diaphragmatic breathing. Now think about one person in your life who matters a lot to you, someone you deeply care about. Recall that person's smiling face. Now travel back in time and go to the first memory of this person, the first time you met them. Any details you can recall. Look at the childhood picture of this person, particularly one where they looked a little naughty. Notice their hairstyle at that time. Now travel forward in time and imagine you're sitting with this person by a beach on a bench, holding hands, talking about life. You are in the 9th decade of your life, healthy and strong. Look into the eyes of this person and notice the color of their eyes at this moment. Send them a silent gratitude for being in your life. Give them a virtual hug and hold that hug for 5 seconds. When you are ready, you can open your eyes.
That is so amazing. And I'm so happy we were able to share it. And I'm giving you a big virtual hug and thanking you so much for this. I know everybody's going to want you to come back. So I'm just telling you, I'll probably be stalking you again soon. You're just amazing. You're an extraordinary man, and your teenage daughters are very lucky to have you as a dad, and so's your wife. So we appreciate this so much, and thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a
Oh, thank
lovely
you,
day.
Norma. Absolutely. The feeling is mutual in every way. And I wish you a beautiful future with Marty and
Thank you.
with all your phenomenal work. You enhance people's self-worth in amazing ways, more than you perhaps know. And I look forward to uh, staying, in touch and
Great.
come again and love your friendship. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye bye.